wise one said, if you want to build the business, build the people. Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on this video and good day for all of you who is watching this. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Ria Sandora. I'm a student of Universitas Tanjungpura, majoring in Management International Class, Faculty of Economics and Business. My student number is B1024191001. On this great opportunity, I'm going to answer the questions for the final term test of Human Resource Management. My lecturer for this course is Mr. Adi Mursali. By the end of this video, I hope all of you can understand more about Human Resource Management and the application at the workplace. So, without any further ado, let's see the questions starting from part A. Yes, I do. I always attend the Zoom class of HRM after the midterm test of HRM because I don't want to miss the opportunity to gain new knowledge, especially about human resource management or HRM. This course may sound easy, but in reality, human resource management is not as easy as it seems. It needs deep understanding and focus in learning HRM. That's why I always attend the Zoom class of HRM. In addition, the material in HRM is also very unique and interesting to discuss because it learns about human behavior, not only about ourselves, but also learn to understand other people. I always attend the HRM Zoom class from the first meeting to the last meeting. So in total, I have attended the HRM Zoom class for one semester is 14 times, 7 times before the midterm test and 7 times after the midterm test until final exam. I never miss HRM Zoom class, even the class was held at 6:30. I still attend every Tuesday morning, enter the HRM Zoom class on time, and follow the class until the end, usually around 9:30. This is because I don't want to miss the discussion of the material that was done during the HRM Zoom class, either by a friend's presentation or a direct explanation by Mr. Adi Mursali. I want to discuss with friends and Sir Adi about the different HRM material every week. Therefore, I never want to skip the HRM Zoom class because even though there is a Zoom recording published by Sir Adi after every time the class is finished, I think it will be more effective and efficient, also understandable if I participate directly in the discussion through Zoom meeting, not only through the video. There are several topics that have been discussed in the HRM Zoom class after the midterm test, such as the basic of human resource management, sexual harassment in the workplace, and then cyberloafing on employees, leadership, the theory of motivation according to Abraham Maslow, and the last material is about human capital. The topic that my group and I discussed is about cyberloafing on employees. In my opinion, this topic is a crucial topic for a company because I am 100% sure that in every company there will be cyberloafing where employees use the internet for personal things that is non-work related during working hours. No cyberloafing is not a good thing at all. However, excessive cyberloafing can also reduce employees' performance and productivity. So the question is, what should an HR manager do, right? Therefore, the topic about cyberloafing on employees is very important for a company to understand and find the right solution so as not to disrupt the company's activities. Specifically, what my group and I presented were two things, namely the article entitled Effect of Cyberloafing on Employee Performance Among Deposit Money Banks in Kaduna Metropolis, and also a video entitled Cyberloafing and its Positive or Negative Impact. From the article, we can learn that all of it is started by the technological advancements that have been revolutionizing the ways in which work is being carried out. I think we all agree that in today's business world, the use of computers and internet have become unavoidable. Unfortunately, this can lead to cyberloafing that causes substantial waste of time at work. As I explained earlier, cyberloafing is a personal usage of internet in job environment. Lee and Chung identified three typologies of cyberloafing to include informational, social, and leisure loafing. The informational capacity is utilizing the internet to pick up the data. Social capacity involves utilizing the internet to speak with companies or colleges. And leisure capacity includes web for stimulation. In a survey carried out in America, it is observed that American employees spend 24% of their working hours on cyberloafing activities every day, while a survey done in one of the companies in Malaysia showed that the employees in average spend 25% of the daily work time to access internet materials for personal use. Studies also showed that cyberloafing could lower performance and productivity of a company, and some employees cannot complete their tasks due to over cyberloafing, and it decreases their work productivity. Lastly, it is against work ethics and harmful to organizations. Thus, some organizations take action to ban the usage of cell phones in office during working hours. An online survey conducted by the Pew Research Center in 2016 shows that 46% of the respondents feel more productive because of the internet, email, and cell phone usage, if compared to 7% of respondents who feel their productivity has dropped. This suggests that internet has become a tool in improving task performance and productivity of employees. The construct of task performance is a particular concern here, since cyberloafing could potentially have very negative effects on productivity. Some users might use internet wisely and some might not. Although most of these studies focus on the negative outcomes of cyberloafing, there are also studies claiming that cyberloafing is a positive behavior to reduce the employee's stress, recharge their energy, and increase their work performance. Meanwhile, the video contains a brief explanation of what cyberloafing is and the impacts it provides. So basically, cyberloafing means that we use technology or gadgets and the internet for things that are not related to our work during working hours. For example, like scrolling through social media like Facebook, WhatsApp, Line, or anything, listening to music, watching films, online shopping, or downloading something that is non-work related. The video provides us an example of a patient in a hospital or a clinic who was lying sick. Suddenly, the patient had severe contractions that caused him to go into convulsions. But unfortunately, when the patient needed help, the doctor was in her room playing on her gadgets. She didn't realize that there was a patient who was in dire need of medical help. The doctor finally came after someone went to call her. Unfortunately, the time is too late. The patient had died before the doctor could provide any help. This shows us a lesson that cyberloafing while working can have fatal consequences to the point of losing a person's life. However, from this video, it is also explained that cyberloafing is not always bad. If examined deeper, cyberloafing actually also has a positive side, which is as a stress reliever, as long as you know the time limit. In other words, cyberloafing can heal a person psychologically from a tough and tiring job, also can raise the mood, for example by listening to music. Of course, employees need this in order to do better. In fact, research also shows that cyberloafing can increase productivity by 16%. Of course, we will work with more enthusiasm if our psychological condition is also good so that we become more productive. In my group's presentation, we involved 11 students to answer the 11 questions that we provided, 8 questions related to the article and 3 questions about the video. 11 of my friends answered with very good and correct answers. Unfortunately, due to time constraints at that time, there was no question session given by the audience, but only a question session from my group as the presenter. Just as everyone's hope, of course I want a very good and satisfying HRM grade, considering that the effort and work that I have given for this one semester of this HRM class. What support my statement is that I'm always present and never miss the HRM Zoom class. I'm also always active during the Zoom class by answering or asking friends who are presenting. I also actively answer when Sir Adi asks questions, and in addition, I also do all the assignments in the form of presentations and exams in the form of videos uploaded to YouTube. And I think the results of my work can be said to be very well. Therefore, these things show evidence that I'm really serious in taking this HRM class and I deserve the good grades. I've got so many new knowledge and experiences through the HRM Zoom class during this 4th semester. I got interesting HR materials through this course, such as the basic material of human resource management, which discusses HR from the very basics, starting from the definition, history, roles, models to HR trends in this 2021. Furthermore, other interesting materials discussed in this course are about sexual harassment in the workplace, and then cyberloafing on employees, leadership in management, theory of motivation according to Abraham Maslow, and the last is about human capital. Something that impresses me from the HRM Zoom class is both the knowledge and skills that I got. Through the HR Zoom class, I do not only learn about human resource management materials in theory as I mentioned earlier, but also I learn to speak up and have an opinion, which is an important soft skill. I also learn to speak English grammarly correct and fluently, because in the HRM Zoom class, the priority for talking a lot is the students. Students make presentations, questions and answers, and discussions about different HR materials every week, so that this is not only enriches students in terms of knowledge, but also English language skills and increases confidence to express opinions in front of many people. I think this is something that we seldom find from another course. So that's my answer for part A, and now let's jump to the part B. Although cyberloafing may have a positive impact on employees, not all cyberloafing activities will yield the same positive outcomes. Research on emailing suggested that it negatively affects employees' work and emotions. This is because personal resources, such as energy and attention, are required in responding to emails. This reduces the amount of resources available for other work demands. The reduction of personal resources is likely to lead to negative effect. Further, emailing is one of the major culprits that distract employees from their work. Studies from Fellows in 2002 and Maglem 2006 have shown that 28% of employees surveyed found emails to be distracting and 40% didn't return to their original task after emailing. Consistent with these findings, the distraction brought about by emailing triggers negative effect. On the other hand, browsing the web generates positive effect. Research from Untan in 2002 found that surfing the net while at work is generally a pleasurable activity. This is because surfing the net allows employees to temporarily take their mind off work. In this sense, browsing is a palliative coping strategy for negative workplace experiences by allowing employees to zone out. Thus, when employees surf the web, they are likely to feel energized and experience positive effect. Yes, there are gender differences in employees' perception towards cyberloafing. Research suggests that cyberloafing provides an effective buffer against work stress. In this sense, cyberloafing functions as an office toy that offers employees temporary respite from work demands. Earlier studies have shown that taking periodic breaks from work are important, as these breaks allow employees to recharge their energy level and are crucial for improving work performance. By allowing employees to take a break from work, cyberloafing is likely to have a positive impact on work performance. Although cyberloafing is likely to have a positive impact on employees' performance, I think that there will be gender differences in this impact. Studies found that individuals with low confidence and high anxiety in internet usage will engage in less internet use and perceive the internet to be less useful than individuals with high confidence and low anxiety. Since women are less confident with the internet, it is plausible that they perceive the cyberloafing to interfere with their work demands. This is because when women cyberloaf, they will experience higher level of uncertainty and are less able to make use of useful information they come across. Given the high level of anxiety and inability to take advantage of useful online information, women will perceive cyberloafing to be an unproductive activity which interferes with their work. On the other hand, men are likely to find cyberloafing facilitative in aiding them to meet their work demands. Research suggested that men are more efficacious in internet usage and are able to apply knowledge gleaned from internet use to their daily life. Given the high level of confidence and comfort with internet use, men are likely to perceive cyberloafing as enjoyable and are able to make use of information that they come across to aid them in their work processes. Therefore, women perceive cyberloafing to interfere with work, while men perceive cyberloafing to facilitate work. The results of previous research revealed a significant gender differences in the perceived impact of cyberloafing on work. Women tend to feel that cyberloafing has a negative impact on their work, whereas men reported that cyberloafing has a positive impact on their work. Yes, I do agree with the statement stating that cyberloafing at work is acceptable. But what I want to emphasize is that there are strict restrictions and rules. This means that employees cannot do as they want, and if the employee violates the allowed cyberloafing rules, the employees will be subject to sanctions. From the research that I have mentioned earlier, we can conclude that there are several types of cyberloafing that employees really need as a temporary escape from a tough work to improve their work performance. For example, listening to music. Some people say that music is healing because according to several studies, it is found that listening to music is very good for one's psychology and it also can increase productivity. Conversely, if a company prohibits all forms of cyberloafing at work, employees will feel monotonous because they only work from morning to the evening and it can lower their performance. Hence, I agree that cyberloafing at work is permissible and acceptable insofar as it doesn't exceed companies' provisions regarding the types of cyberloafing allowed and how long cyberloafing is permitted. Sexual harassment is unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature which makes a person feel offended, humiliated, and or intimidated. It is also said that sexual harassment is defined as any behavior of a sexual nature that affects the dignity of women and men, which is considered as unwanted, unacceptable, inappropriate, and offensive to the recipient, and that creates an intimidating, hostile, and unstable or offensive environment. Sexual harassment can take various forms. It can involve conduct such as unwelcome touching, hugging, or kissing, staring or leering, suggestive comments or jokes, unwanted invitations for sex or persistent requests to go out on dates, intrusive questions about another person's private life or body, unnecessary familiarity such as deliberately brushing up against someone, insults or taunts of a sexual nature, sexually explicit pictures, posters, screensavers, emails, Twitters, SMS, or instant messages, accessing sexually explicit internet sites, inappropriate advances on social networking sites, behavior which would also be an offense under the criminal law, such as physical assault, indecent exposure, sexual assault, stalking, or obscene communications. Sexual harassment in the workplace in general, for example, like sending suggestive memos or emails, sharing sexually explicit images or videos, telling loud jokes, making sexual comments about a coworker's appearance or body, using suggestive hand gestures, commenting on someone's sexual orientation or gender identity, unwarranted touching like rubbing, brushing up against someone, or massaging someone's shoulders. And then beside that, also asking coworkers about their sexual history or sharing your own sexual anecdotes. However, sexual harassment at the workplace can be divided into three: physical, verbal, and non-verbal. Physical forms of sexual harassment, such as any unwanted contact ranging from intentionally touching, caressing, pinching, hugging, or kissing to sexual assault or rape. Verbal forms of sexual harassment include socially and culturally inappropriate and unwelcome comments with sexual overtones, such as sexually suggestive jokes or comments about a person's dress or body, made in their presence or directed toward them. They also include persistent proposals and unwelcome requests or persistent personal invitations to go out. And then the third, non-verbal forms of sexual harassment include unwelcome gestures, suggestive body language, indecent exposure, lascivious looks, repeated winks, and gestures with fingers. It also includes the unwelcome display of pornographic materials such as explicit pictures and objects, screensavers or posters, as well as sexuality explicit emails, notes, or SMS messages. From the definition of sexual harassment mentioned before, we can conclude that all of the examples are sexual harassment. All of those are said to be sexual harassment because the act was carried out without permission according to the definition of sexual harassment, namely actions that are unwanted, unacceptable, inappropriate, and offensive to the recipient and are detrimental to the recipient. Yes, I do agree that most women are familiar with sexual harassment in some form or other. It is true that women and men from all walks of life experience sexual harassment. However, the public discourse often discusses sexual harassment as a problem that primarily confronts women. Multiple surveys indicate that a majority of women report experiencing sexual harassment at some point of their lives, often starting at a young age. From here, we know that the most frequent objects of sexual harassment are women. This doesn't mean that it doesn't occur to men, but most cases occur to women. considering that in general, women's physical strength is weaker than men. For example, what often happens is like catcalling, whistling, staring at certain body parts, which indirectly included to sexual harassment. Therefore, most women tend to be more familiar with sexual harassment in some form or other because they quite often get that kind of treatment. In addition, this understanding is also a form of self-protection so that if something happens that leads to sexual harassment, women can defend themselves immediately. Unfortunately, it's sad but true. This is a fact that we cannot deny, where the majority of victims of sexual harassment is women, as we know that in the work environment there are not only women, but also many men, all work together regardless of gender to achieve company goals. The number of employees in a company automatically reflects the number of different personalities, different backgrounds, and different behaviors. After all, we will never know when someone has malicious intentions to commit sexual harassment because the malicious intent can appear at any time. In addition, considering that in general, the form and physical strength of men are stronger than women, it makes women as easy targets for sexual harassment because women will find it difficult to fight back. This is no longer about how women dress that causes most women will experience sexual harassment in the workplace. No, because not a few victims of sexual harassment are Muslims who tend to dress clothes even veiled. But the problem lies with the perpetrators of sexual harassment who are mostly men. It could be because of the inability to control their sexual desire, maybe. Besides, the thing that triggers the rise of sexual harassment is also because of the lack of laws that regulate this. In Indonesia itself, there are laws that regulate sexual harassment both in public and in the workplace. However, criminal code, or in Indonesia KUHP, doesn't specifically regulate the punishment for perpetrators of sexual harassment, but the law only prohibits all acts of inappropriate and violence or threats to have sexual intercourse. The perpetrator is only given a sanction if the sexual harassment act is categorized as heavy. Of course, this is unfair considering that the victim will experience trauma and will never forget that, no matter how small the sexual harassment is received for the rest of their life, while the perpetrator will not receive any sanctions. This then makes some disrespectful people are not afraid to engage in sexual harassment, especially for women who tend to be weaker. For me, myself, I have not experienced sexual harassment before, both in the reunion arranged or birthday party arranged, because my parents are quite strict regarding where and with whom I go. My parents also know all the friends that I'm hanging out with very well. I also have not seen my friends doing sexual harassment during those events since I know that they are not that type of person. But I have seen sexual harassment before when I was eating with my friends, although this is neither reunion nor birthday parties. So there was a woman, the sales promotion girl of one of the famous cigarettes. She offered a pack of cigarettes to one of the tables far enough from mine, where the table was filled with old men. The woman was wearing quite revealing clothes, which was a short skirt above the knee. From a distance, I saw the hand of one of the old men touch at a glance. The back of that woman. I don't think that anyone noticed that because everyone was busy with their food. It happened very quick and only once. Okay, when an employee files a sexual harassment complaint, me as an HR manager, I will immediately handle it and solve the problem step by step. First of all, I will carefully read the file first to find out what kind of sexual harassment he or she got, where it happened, and who did it. After knowing the complete information, I will check the CCTV footage to corroborate the complaint. After having strong evidence, then I will call the employee who has committed the sexual harassment. If the act of sexual harassment carried out is still categorized as mild, for example, touching or holding a glimpse of a person's body, then I will give the employee hard sanctions in the form of a warning letter and a suspension for about 2 weeks to be given socialization and education about sexual harassment. It doesn't stop there. I will still continue to monitor this employee for a 3-month trial to see if there is a change in his or her attitude. If the sexual harassment happens again for the second time, then I will immediately fire the employee. I think of him or her as someone who cannot change because we are all adult enough, so if he or she has good intentions, then it should be known that he or she shouldn't repeat that act. We are all mature here. However, if the act of sexual harassment is a serious violation and is classified as a criminal act, for example like rape, then I will immediately report the case to the police. I will also dismiss the employee or fire the employee for the convenience of other employees and the safety of the work environment. More than that, the company also has nothing to lose if it loses an employee who doesn't have a good attitude. My answer is no. A good manager is not automatically a good leader. We know that everyone can be a good manager as long as he works hard. But not everyone can be a good leader because a good leader requires a good and strong personality. A good manager guarantees the success of the company, but not the welfare of its employees. Conversely, a good leader will guarantee the success of the company along with all its employees. Therefore, a successful business owner needs to be both a strong leader and manager to get their employees on board to follow them towards their vision of success. And then now the differences between leadership and management. At first glance, leadership and management sounds alike and many of people think that these two terms mean the same thing. But in reality, both of them are two different things. Here I will tell you the differences. First is about vision and goal. Vision can only be formed through leadership. Then, through the management, goals are formed. Second, leadership is future-oriented, whereas management is present-oriented. It means that leadership also considers future in making decisions and plan for long-term goals. Meanwhile, management is focusing on present situation only and plan for short-term goals. So, from all those differences, we can sum up the key difference between leadership and management. Leadership is about getting people to understand and believe in your vision and to work with you to achieve your goals. Meanwhile, management is more about administering and making sure the day-to-day things are happening as they should. Despite the differences, both leadership and management are important in every organization. Without leadership, teams would be directionless and not be united on a vision. And without management, teams wouldn't be able to take actionable steps or complete the goals they need to achieve their vision. Let's start from the bottom of the needs. First, physiological needs. It talks about basic issues of survival such as salary and stable employment. The physiological needs in this hierarchy refer to the most basic human needs. Abraham Maslow realized that people need to deal with the survival needs before they move on to any other level of needs. If they do not have the necessary food, clothing, water, shelter, or comparable elements to survive, they are not likely to be concerned about learning new skills to qualify them for future jobs. Employees need access to vital services and opportunities while at work to feel their most basic needs are being met. So, a company must provide a restroom, a place to get drinking water, breaks to eat meals and snacks, and a comfortable working environment. When applied to the workplace, one of our physiological needs is also a steady income to support ourselves and pay for somewhere to live, to food, utilities, and other essential needs. The second need is safety. So safety talks about stable physical and emotional environment issues such as benefits, pension, safe work environment, and fair work practices. Safety is another vital need that can impact our overall satisfaction with our workplace. It is natural to worry about our own safety and the safety of your loved ones. For example, one of your priorities might be to provide a safe living space for your family, which is why you work hard to provide for that need. At work, it's also important to feel that your physical safety is valued and prioritized. You should feel that your resources and personal property are safe and protected. Ensuring a safe workplace may include providing ergonomic office furniture that properly supports you and reduces the risk of injury, along with securing the building to prevent potentially dangerous people from entering. Another aspect of safety in the workplace pertains to feeling emotionally safe and supported. If you are worried about losing your job due to layoffs or budget cuts, it is more challenging to achieve motivation to move to the next level in the hierarchy and perform at your highest level. Unsteady futures also lead to decreased morale in the workplace. The third need is love and belonging. It is about social acceptance issues such as love, acceptance, friendship, companionship, and cooperation on the job. The love and belonging level of Maslow's hierarchy is slightly different in the workplace than it is in other areas of your life. If you don't feel a sense of belonging, you may not feel as engaged at work or as motivated to succeed. It's not always easy for individuals to establish and form relationships at work. Companies that host social activities and offer more opportunities for relationship building outside the office tend to have higher rates of employee engagement than organizations that don't focus on these aspects of a work-life balance. When you feel like you belong and fit in within your workplace and your team, it is easier to feel motivated and work hard and then achieve results. The fourth is esteem. At this point of Maslow's hierarchy, the focus shifts to the positive self-image and respect and recognition issues such as job titles, nice workspaces, and prestigious job assignments. Esteem is the belief that you are contributing to a higher goal and that the contributions you make are recognized. In the workplace, it is important to feel that you are growing, advancing, and achieving results, and that those around you recognize those results. When you have confidence in yourself and your abilities, as well as receive positive feedback and encouragement, you are more likely to succeed. An employee's esteem ultimately impacts their overall engagement as well. Offering regular recognition and appreciation for the tasks employees are doing can positively impact esteem, even when an employee is struggling. If feedback only comes in the form of an annual review, employee esteem may suffer. And the fifth hierarchy of needs is self-actualization. The final level on Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-actualization, which translates to maximizing an individual's potential at work. It talks about achievement issues such as workplace autonomy, challenging work, and subject matter expert status on the job. A person ultimately wants to feel that they are doing the best they can in their position, which helps them to feel motivated to continue on their career path and succeed. A self-actualized employee feels empowered and trusted, which encourages growth and engagement. He or she may want a challenging job, an opportunity to complete further education, increased freedom from supervision, or autonomy to define his own processes for meeting organizational objectives. At this highest level, managers focus on promoting an environment where an employee can meet his or her own self-actualization needs. One of the keys to making sure this need is met is giving employees opportunities that allow them to succeed. Supervisors should focus on their employees' skills and abilities, helping them to look for ways to advance their careers without pushing them into roles that will not be good fits. To feel self-actualized, you should feel challenged at work, but not overwhelmed or overloaded. Therefore, the key to successfully applying Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory in the workplace is to remember that what motivates one employee doesn't necessarily motivate another. But motivation is key to retaining employees and achieving business goals. I will start from the strengths first. Okay, so first, the biggest strength of Maslow's theory of motivation is that it is very simple to understand, and even layman can understand and relate to this theory because we all go through one or other stage of needs pyramid during our lifetime. Hence, as far as labor is concerned, his or her need will always be limited to lower level of need pyramid, that is food, shelter, and clothing. But as far as a billionaire businessman is concerned, his or her top priority will be top level of pyramid, and that is self-esteem or sense of achieving all things, and he or she will never think about food, shelter, clothing, as these needs have been fulfilled long back. Second, it takes into account human nature. Another strength of this theory is that it gives consideration to basic human nature that is demanding more as the lower level needs are satisfied. It can be better understood with the help of an example. So suppose a small kid is hungry and he has given two options. One is food and other is toys. Then he will not select toys, rather he will eat food first and then demand the toys. Hence, one can say that this nature of greed is inborn in human, and Maslow's theory of motivation addresses that beautifully. Third, relevant in all fields. It is relevant in almost all fields of life because whether you are at home or at office, you start with basic need only. So at home, your first priority is doing necessary arrangements so that you get food daily. Then next come to security of your home, and then once security and food aspect is taken care of, you move to social affection by calling your relatives or friends to your home. And then come to the self-esteem, when you decorate your house with expensive furniture and showpieces to show off the society. After strength, now the weakness of Maslow's theory of motivation. First, not all individuals think in the same way. The biggest disadvantage of this theory is that not all individuals think in the same way. Hence, for some individuals, social affection and respect is more important than safety needs. And that is the reason why one sees many people do grand ceremony of their children's birthdays or marriages or purchasing expensive cars in order to show off to society before buying insurance, plan for family, or purchasing a house for the family, as they get more satisfaction from showing off to society than fulfilling safety needs of the family. Second, culture differences. Another limitation of this theory is that there are bound to be cultural differences when this theory is applied to different nations, as each nation or country has different culture. So for example, in countries like USA, kids after a certain age leave their home, and parents do not have to worry about their kids' future, and kids also do not have to worry about their parents. Whereas in countries like Asia, where joint family culture is prevalent, kids and parents both have to think about each other when they are fulfilling their needs. Third weakness, difficult to measure. It is very difficult to measure the satisfaction which one gets after satisfying each level of need, as it is subjective in nature because it deals with human mind which cannot be predicted by any machine or method. Hence, some people will get satisfied even after fulfilling physiological and safety needs, while some people will not be satisfied by fulfilling all levels of needs. As one can see from the above, that Maslow theory of motivation has strengths as well as weaknesses, but still it is one of the most used and important theory when it comes to measurement of needs hierarchy of human beings. Okay, that's the answers for part B, and now let's go to the part C. This video titled Cyberloafing in the Workplace, the Dark Side. Overall, content of this video explains about what cyberloafing is, how it negatively affects the workplace, why it happens, and how it can be prevented. Started from the definition of cyberloafing, the types of cyberloafing, and how to manage cyberloafing at work. The theories discussed in this video is from Anita Blanchard, Christine Hanley, Peter Kerwin, and Maria Triana. This video explains that cyberloafing is when employees use their organization's internet access for personal use during work hours. In other words, cyberloafing employees are avoiding their job duties by doing unrelated activities on their computer, but they still look like they are doing their jobs. According to Anita Blanchard and Christine Hanley, cyberloafing has two main forms, minor and serious. Minor cyberloafing includes like receiving or sending or checking non-work email, visiting news, financial, sport or stock sites, and online shopping. Meanwhile, serious cyberloafing includes visiting adult-oriented virtual communities or gambling sites, participating in chat rooms, maintaining personal web page, downloading music, and reading blogs. Serious cyberloafing tends to be more of a problem for companies. However, both of the types can cause some problems such as time-consuming, inappropriate behavior at work, floods computing resources, puts companies at risk, and creates security issues by increasing risk of viruses. But cyberloafing on employees happens for a reason. Based on Peter Kerwin, there are a couple of the main reasons behind cyberloafing. Employees tend to cyberloaf when they are treated unfairly because of boredom, lack of work to do, with work stressors, conflicting demands, and they assume that there is still enough time to complete their tasks as well as cyberloaf. So how organizations can manage it? There are several ways. For example, simply to make sure that there is enough work for a full workday. Attempt to accommodate some reasons employees cyberloaf, make sure employees are content with the job, and treat all employees equally. Benefits of this video, even though I have learned about cyberloafing recently, but from this video, I just got many new knowledge, especially regarding the type of cyberloafing and the ways to prevent cyberloafing at work. This video also provides a brief clip from Matthew McCarter talking about what cyberloafing is, why it is problematic for companies, and the study that shows the likelihood of cyberloafing. The second video, entitled Storytime Sexually Harassed at Work. Content of the video is based on the true story from Sassy Tamika, talking about how she received sexual harassment at work when she was only 16 years old by a man in his 30s. Who was also one of the staff where she worked. She didn't mention the name of the store where she worked and the name of the man for safety reasons. She feels so sorry that Stuff like this happens all the time, and it is unbelievable that girls nowadays have to walk around scared just because they have a female body. Girls are scared simply because they are females. We are scared because we are being ourselves as a female. How funny, right? About terrorists discussed in this video, so at that time, Sassy Tamika was only 16 and she just started her very first job. She was really happy at that time to get the job because around her area, it was quite difficult to get a job because most jobs were already taken. So, she worked at a normal store. Just like any other day, it was a normal day. But that day, she came a little bit early, about 15 minutes early. Because there is still much time left, she then decided to sit down and relax before working. However, there was a man sitting beside her while eating. Sassy called him Simon as a fake name. So Simon was her working partner, but they didn't really speak outside work. He was a lot older than Sassy because at that time he was around 30s while Sassy was only 16. While Sassy sitting down, she was minding her own business. She was playing on her phone while waiting to start working. But out of the blue, this Simon started talking to Sassy. At first, it was a normal talk, like asking how are you and working hours, but after a while, he started talking inappropriately about Sassy at the gym because they went to the same gym. He even mentioned some Sassy's body parts that shouldn't be mentioned impolitely by a man. Furthermore, Simon started going more into details about what he liked to do before and after the gym using sexual and inappropriate words. Sassy was feeling really uncomfortable and shocked with that conversation. In essence, most of the words that Simon said talk about intimate relationship. After 15 minutes passed, finally Sassy was able to immediately end that inappropriate conversation. But before Sassy could laugh, Simon grabbed her hand tightly and threatened her not to tell it to anyone. At first, Sassy didn't dare to say it, but in the end, she had the courage to tell her boss. Unfortunately, the reaction the boss gave was the opposite of what she expected. She thought that her boss would believe her and be on her side, but it turned out that her boss made Sassy sounded like making whole things up. This is an unforgettable thing for Sassy, and it still has an impact on her to this day. She feels less comfortable every time she has a relationship with a man, and she becomes more distant to men. And about the benefits of this video, it was a tragic story happened to a 16-year-old girl, and I will say that Sassy is such a brave and strong girl to share this story to the public for educational purpose. From this short story of Sassy, I learned a lot about real experiences from victims of sexual harassment. I've come to understand that sexual harassment can happen anytime, anywhere, and by anyone, even someone that we think impossible. And I know that most sexual harassment perpetrators look for victims who tend to be weaker than them. The victims may look okay from the outside, they may look good, but they are crushed into pieces from the inside. This unpleasant incident will never be forgotten by the victims of sexual harassment forever. It can even affect their psychology. This story also taught me that the world of work is not as beautiful as imagined. Not everyone can be trusted, even our own boss. In addition, through this story and this video, I know that everyone can be a boss and manage their companies well, but not all bosses can become a leader to embrace all their employees. The title of this third video is Sexual Harassment in the Workplace. This video contains the explanation about what should employees know about sexual harassment in detail. starting from the forms or types of sexual harassment, also the illustration example of sexual harassment at workplace. And then about theories discussed in the video, sexual harassment is something illegal. It is against the law and also against companies' policy. So there are several types that can be called as sexual harassment. The first and most obvious is physical harassment, where when a stranger touches, holds, or caresses a certain body part of someone without permission. In some instances, the harassment may be in verbal form. It is when someone talking or praising about sexual things to you or talking parts of your body in sexual way. Besides those two types, sexual harassment also might be visual harassment, such as derogatory posters, cartoons, or drawings. However, sexual harassment is not always about sex. It may be the result of a power struggle between a manager and a subordinate. The benefits from this video, I got to see the illustration of what we call sexual harassment and what types of words used when someone is sexually harassed. The illustration in this video seems so real so that I become more aware about sexual harassment because of the illustration. It's not always about touching, but stranger talking about certain parts of our body is also included to sexual harassment because it makes us feel uncomfortable and threatened. Besides, as we know that everyone wants to be treated fairly and with respect. Therefore, from this video, I know that we should also treat our coworkers or other employees with the courtesy and respect we want for ourselves. In short, treat someone the way you want to be treated. Last but not least, this fourth video entitled Criticisms of Abraham Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. This 20 minutes long video contains a lot of discussion about criticisms of Maslow's theory regarding the hierarchy of needs, where two views about the weaknesses of this theory are presented and also added to the point of view of the video speaker to the weakness of this theory, coupled with attaching a photo from Maslow's hierarchy of needs as well in the explanation. So the theories discussed in this video, first is about the general statement of hierarchy of needs proposed by Abraham Maslow. As the name implies, needs here are divided into 5 hierarchy with 3 types. The first type is basic needs, consists of physiological needs in the lower structure like food, water, warmth, and rest. And above is safety needs, for example, security and safety. The second type is psychological needs that consist of belongingness and love needs in level 3, such as intimate relationship and friends. And then esteem needs in level 4, like prestige and feeling of accomplishment. The last type and the highest type in the structure is self-fulfillment needs that consists only one highest need, which is self-actualization. For example, achieving one's full potential, including creative activity. So once someone is satisfied with the most basic needs, which is physiological needs, he or she will move to the upper level of needs, which is safety needs, and so on, until the highest structure, self-actualization. However, this video criticizes Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory with some supporting comments. The first criticism comes from Pamela Routledge, with her article titled Social Networks, What Maslow Misses. Pamela's first critiques is that people can only be satisfied by social collaboration and social connections. For her, the role of social connection is really important, whereas in the Maslow's hierarchy is more into individual. The second critique is needs of all people is not uniform. It means that people have their own problems and it's not always the same. For example, after someone is satisfied with physiological needs, there is a chance that they do not want to satisfy the next needs, which is safety needs. Another thing that she stated is that no supporting scientific evidence. There is no proof or study that shows people will move to that level. For example, after physiological needs are satisfied, there is no study that shows people will directly move to safety needs. So it could be inaccurate. She also said that there is cultural influence, where Maslow is an American, and this theory is more directed to Western culture, which is individual-based society. This is quite different from Eastern culture, which is a family-based society, so that it is felt that this theory is quite different to be applied in countries with Eastern philosophy. Lastly, she stated about individualistic perspective, where this theory only focuses on meeting individual needs and doesn't take the role of social connections as mentioned earlier. The second criticism is talking about some things different. First, reappearing needs. According to Maslow's theory, once someone is satisfied with physiological needs, he will move to safety needs. But the critic is that person may return back to physiological needs because physiological needs might rise again. And then second critic is working at more than one needs level simultaneously. What's needed to be understood is that people is not a robot or a machine that is set to finish physiological needs first and then go to the next one and then go to the next one. No, people can do whatever they want. They may also do multiple tasks. They may want to satisfy physiological needs, safety needs, and then social needs simultaneously. Next critique is substantial satisfaction of one need level doesn't necessarily lead to the next higher need level. It's basically said that not everyone wants to satisfy higher level of needs. For example, person A has satisfied his physiological needs. Does it mean that he is obliged to satisfy the next level, which is safety needs? The answer is no. He can choose to move to the next level or no. And there is a chance that he doesn't want to move and still wants to satisfy physiological needs. Besides this, another critique is about the model. It is said that the model of this theory, Abraham Maslow's theory, is too rigid to explain the dynamic and unstable characteristics of needs. The last critiques from the second criticism is genetic influence. So Maslow's theory sees in general that people must satisfy physiological needs, safety needs until the highest needs. But this theory doesn't consider someone's traits or nature, someone's issues or disabilities that affect the needs. Moreover, the speaker of this video also told the audience the criticisms for Maslow's hierarchy of needs based on his perspective. He agreed with the previous statement about reappearing needs. He also stated the cycle of needs, drive, action, and satisfaction. No specific needs of Maslow's theory, for example, like spiritual needs. And then he doesn't think that self-actualization is a need, but rather a state. He prefers to call others as they transcend their needs, not fulfill their needs. It is because usually people haven't satisfied their needs. For example, just say physiological needs, but they already go to the next level of needs. Therefore, according to him, people transcendence from physiological needs to STE needs in order to reach the state of self-actualization. So from this video, I got so many benefits. Like, I know that every theory has its own weakness. Even Maslow's theory, which is very popular and widely used around the world, is not entirely correct, where there are several weaknesses found from this theory. So, to apply this theory in human resource management in a company, it is not necessary to strictly follow this theory, but to be more flexible, because it must be adjusted to the conditions of each employee. The video explains the criticisms with the comparison to Maslow's theory, so I think it's really easy to understand. Okay, so I think that's all I can answer for final term test of human resource management, and may all those I have shared in this video be beneficial for all of us. Finally, I would like to bring this video to a close with this inspiring and motivational quote from Doc Conant. To win the marketplace, you must first win the workplace. Alright, so thank you everyone for watching and see you in another video. Bye!